Okay, welcome. I'd like to welcome everybody. Welcome council members, welcome mayor. And anyway, we're all present and accounted for. And this is 6:30, which is the time for the Murray City Municipal Council for Tuesday, November 21st, 2017. Also, if you would please turn off your cell phones, if you have them with you, I would appreciate it. And the opening ceremonies will begin with Pledge of Allegiance, and I've asked Chief Craig Burnett to do that for us. Thank you, Chief.
Please stand and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, I see no scouts, so darn it. We will now do special recognition, and it's great to see all the firefighters here. It always is such a nice thing to look out and see all those great faces. And anyway, thanks for being here, you guys. So, Murray City Council Employee of the Month is Captain Scott White from the Fire Department, and Brett Hales and Chief Rodriguez will be presenting.
Come on, Scott.
Come on, Scott. How are you? Absolutely. Well, as Murray City Council, we'd like to recognize Scott as our Employee of the Month. We started this program about, it gets longer and longer, about 4 or 5 years ago. And come on out, don't be hiding. You're supposed to be up here. Chief Gill said you love this kind of attention, so would you get back up here? He didn't. He didn't say that. Look, we know that Gill likes it, but anyway. Yeah. Anyway, so we have a certificate for you in honor of your Employee of the Month, and we'll put your name back on this plaque. Here's a $50 gift card for you. That goes to you or whoever. And but we want to tell you how much we appreciate all of your service. You've been here a quarter of a century, haven't you? 25 years? Longer than 25 years? Well, we appreciate it, and we know that you work hard, and Gil has spoken very highly of you. So anyway, give a round of applause for Scott.
Okay, so most of us in the fire department know Scott, and I think we've known Scott like before Scott was a fireman. I think we know Scott when he wanted to be a fireman, and he was like really, really little. So Scott kind of epitomizes what a fireman, a guy who really wants to be a fireman. He's got an unbridled passion for the fire service, and I've worked with Scott for a long time back when I was a real guy on the floor. And I remember one time we were sitting there watching TV, and it was back when you were getting paged all over the place, whether it was us or UFA or Salt Lake County then or other departments. And I'm looking at Scott, and he's got a radio on this shoulder, and he's got his pager on this shoulder. All right, I will bet Scott knows where every apparatus in the valley is right now, and I'll bet he knows who's on that apparatus. Okay, so he does have a very big passion for the job, and the one thing you can't take away is passion for the job, because everything else can be overcome when you love what you're doing, and Scott truly does love what he's doing. He's worked with our fire apparatus for many years. He's spec'd them out. He says, Chief, we need this. This isn't a want. This is a need. And sometimes I have to send Scott with a capital N-O. You know, it's not 2 wheels to pump and an engine, and we're good to start with. Scott was an original member of Task Force 5. And was a representative for many years. And this is a tough thing to do because you do a lot of training, you do a lot of off-duty stuff that's not compensated, and you don't get called out. And that's tough. That's tough for anybody to do because it's a lot of volunteerism, but he's been very passionate about it. He's our representative for the Salt Lake Valley Rescue Committee. And And Scott truly loves what he does. So when you talk about an employee of the month, or for us, it's kind of like it is what it is. Scott really represents that because he does have a passion for a job, loves what he does, and it shows every day. And I like to give Scott a bad time too, but it's because I love him. Anyways, congratulations, Scott.
So I have my wife here. I need to thank her because she's been through all this for 25 plus years. My daughter-in-law Natalie, my son Tyler, and my little grandson Benjamin. My other boy is on his way here, but
So
he's late. And thank you for this, and I appreciate it. And Murray's a great city.
Great. Thank you, Scott. We really appreciate what you do for our city. You make us proud. Mayor? I know he can't contain himself.
Yeah, I've known Scott for a long, long time. We worked a lot of shifts together. In fact, I came across a picture the other day. I was going to digitize it and have it here tonight, but I didn't get it over here. But you and I at the back at the, I don't remember if it was the Pierce factory or the Smeal factory. I think it was the Smeal factory. But anyway, what a passion for apparatus. And Scott's always really involved in the apparatus, and we had a good time on that trip. But Scott, this is very well deserved, and thank you for your many years of service and just for being a good guy.
All right. Okay. Now we come to the citizens' comments, and those of you who want to leave at this point are certainly welcome to do that, unless you just want to stay and hang out with us. But
Botcher, he wants to stay. Look at him. He waved goodbye.
thanks for being here. Okay, now we're at citizens' comments, and this is not the public hearing. We'll have that in a few minutes, but that will be later. So those of you who would like to make a citizen comment, please fill out the paperwork and give it to Jan, and go to the lectern and give your name and address. And if the audience will please refrain from clapping or cheering, I would appreciate it. So our first citizen comment.
Good evening. I'm here to talk about two things.
Would you state your name?
My name is Roger Hagland. I live at 1575 East Vine Street.
Thank you, Roger.
The property to the east of our house has become available. There is a little more than 2.5 acres that we've talked before about creating a park. The DeSera family has lived there since right around World War II. They used to farm from Vine Street all the way to Van Winkle. Now their farm goes to the back of the canal where you've created a trail. And it would make a beautiful place for a park. They originally had an offer that they had accepted, but when they found out about what Vine Street widening, the person who had made the offer to them did not think he could get enough houses to make enough money on profit to buy it. He withdrew his offer, and the land is available again. And we would urge the city to get busy and find some funding. They're not making any more land in Murray. The land that's there is largely built already, and there is nothing that's up in our end that is a recreation item. Now that there's the trail there, this would make a nice terminus at the opposite end from Wheeler Farm. If we could find the means to purchase this, whether it's through a conglomerate using ZAP money, Murray money, private money, we would encourage you to get busy. The last comment I have is I sure wish that we could drive down a street like we do once we cross 9th East, and our street was also 30 miles an hour like every other east-west street in Murray. The new part of Murray, the speed limit on those east-west streets is 35. The idea of widening Vine to 5 lanes, two parking, 2 driving, and 1 center turn lane makes it the widest east-west street in Murray. And it's not going to make people slow down because you make it wider. The two commentators on KSL as I drove home talked about their last speeding tickets, and they both mentioned it was a big, wide street. It seemed like the speed limit would be higher. And I sure would like, as you're planning this change to Vine Street configuration, that you would also look into the speed limit. The neighborhood has changed. It's no longer the same as it was when the county first drew up this plan. There is not the the daily traffic on there is actually less than it is down here on Vine Street by State Street. And yet there are no plans to widen Vine Street down here. I really hope that since you control the purse strings for this job, that there could be some perusal of what the plan is going to do. And if nothing else, lower the speed limit to 30 miles an hour. This plan to widen Vine Street will further separate our neighborhoods. It'll make it so that the people to the south will be further separated from those of us on the north side. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you, Roger. Anyone else for citizen comments? Okay, we have someone coming up, sir. Sir? Okay. Go ahead.
I don't hear all that well. But no, I live in your adjoining city of Taylorsville,
Would you please state your
but I
name?
use the Murray
Sir?
Post Office often. The parking directly west of the, I'll say in front of the post office, I was thinking used to be painted red with no parking. Now, that has gone away, and the parking, if everybody there's 5 or 6 cars parked there, you can't see the traffic going northbound, trying to get out of the north exit at the post office. Maybe some of y'all have experienced that too there. But in it, I use it often. It's an irritating fact. In fact, today I used it, and I used the south area to get out and went around that way. But I'd just like to make that comment on the parking in front of the post office, west side, northbound. Like I say, try it sometime. And if it's full, and if there's 5 or 6 cars parked there, you can't see traffic going northbound on State Street. Ta-da. Okay, now what?
Thank
Like I say, this is my first council meeting. I've never been to one in Taylorsville because that's no concern of theirs. One of these days, maybe they'll get a post office over there. But anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Welcome. Jan, do we have his information? Okay. All right.
My name is Lori Hagland, and I live at 1575 East Vine Street, and I'm here to talk to you about acquiring the property on Vine Street and creating DeSera Park. I'm actually continually surprised that I don't see it on the agenda because our conversations with the DeSera family indicate that they're agreeable to having the city purchase the property and that they would like to see a park. And based on all these signatures that we've been able to gather from neighbors in the area, we know that a park is really a priority for your citizens and your constituents and those people that vote for you. And I'm just hoping that you'll decide to put your money where your mouth is and follow the advice that you put forth in the Murray City Plan, where you state that parks and recreation for our residents are really important. And, you know, if you look in the Murray City General Plan, you see all the green circles that show the areas that are served by a park. In this eastern area that was annexed from Salt Lake City County, or Salt Lake County, there's no green circle. And I want to give this, and I've sent it to everybody on the city council, and with no response, and we've got all kinds of public comment from neighbors, and I ask you to please consider providing that kind of amenity for your neighbors on the east side like you provide for everyone else in Murray.
Thank you, Lori.
My name is Gunther Oser. I live at 1619 Monaco Avenue. And the proposal for the park, I can't remember the name. I am really against it. It would be a liability to Murray City to develop the park, to buy it, to develop it. A subdivision would really, it'd be great in there, and it would go together with widening Vine Street, and it would be a great development. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Bonnie Johnson. I live at 6233 Rodeo Lane. I think a park would really help our environment. We have kind of been, since we've been annexed into Murray, and it's, been 20 plus years, it would bring our families together of the east side versus the west side and unifying us. Like it was indicated before, we have a trail now weaving through the neighborhoods, which is being developed as we speak, and it would really connect the two parks, connect Murray with the east side, and I think it would really help our community.
Thank you, Bonnie. Do we have any other citizen comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll close that part. Oh, yes. Did you fill out a paper?
I didn't.
Okay,
I wasn't
you can
really
do that.
planning on speaking, but my name is Madeline Stover. I live at 5859 Fontainebleau Drive, and I agree with the two that want the park on Vine Street, the DeSera Park. I've been going around all of the neighbors on Fontainebleau, even on Monaco. Maybe I must have missed this gentleman over here. But everyone I've talked to, and I've gotten another 40 signatures, they all would love to have a park right there. And it just makes sense with the canal trail to have a park there that hooks it all together. And thank you.
Thank you, Madeline. Any more citizen comments? Okay. All right. Now, we have no consent agenda, so we'll go to the public hearing. Okay, it is to consider an ordinance amending chapters 13.08, 13.12, 13.16, 24, 28, 30, 32, 44, 48, and 13.52 of the City Code related to public services, including wastewater fees in the Murray City Service District, and Frank Nakamura will be presenting.
Yeah, so this is a item we discussed in the Committee of the Whole, in the
Yes.
last council meeting. This is part of our effort, the City Attorney's Office, to update and make technical changes to these ordinances, but there are some substantive changes to it. Those being, one, we did not have a set rate of transfer from the enterprise fund to the general fund, because state law now is monitoring that. So every year annually, we'll have to determine what kind of a transfer is made to pay for costs of city services from the general fund, right, Denise, to the enterprise fund. There were other moving language into the public utilities billing. That's where it belonged rather than into this section. We did not change at this time the water fees. They are working on a tier water rate as required by state law, and that is in the process. So we will have to come back and amend this ordinance again to implement our tier water rate system. And then there's the wastewater fees. Those are proposed to be changed, and that is why we have a public hearing, is to provide an opportunity for the public to comment on the wastewater fees, and so that this time, turn this time over to Doug Hill. We'll discuss the proposed wastewater fees. Doug?
Thank you. So this is somewhat of a repeat of presentations that we made last summer when we hired a consultant to do our rate study on the sewer rates. So just to recap what we had discussed with you in the past, Murray City is one of 7 member entities of the Central Valley Water Reclamation Facility, which is the sewer treatment plant that treats all of Murray's sewer. And because we're one of 7 owners, we actually own 8% based on how much we send to that plant. We own 8% of that plant. For several years, Central Valley Water Reclamation Facility has been planning an upgrade to their plant to handle the requirements now established by the state for phosphorus and nitrogen removal, as well as taking care of plant expansion. And they, meaning Central Valley, has estimated that over the next 10 years, all of their, the cost is going to be approximately $250 million, and the 7 member entities will share in that cost, of which Murray City's participation, as I mentioned, is 8%. So, when we found out that we were going to be having to pay a portion of this $250 million upgrade and expansion, we realized that our current rates could not accommodate that. If we wouldn't be able to make that payment to Central Valley. And so we hired a financial consultant to come in and work with our finance director, Denise, to work with our staff to look at what our capital needs were going to be, not only from Central Valley but as well as within the city, and look at our operating costs going forward, and what those costs are projected to be over the next 5 years. And then based on those costs, we have recommended to you, and that's what you're approving as part of Title 13 tonight, the appropriate rate increases to be able to take care of these costs. And they're on the screen, and I won't go into a lot of detail, but you can see right now our current rates. What we do is we charge a base monthly charge to everybody, regardless of whether they're how much sewer they're using or not. They pay a base fee of $7.62 per month, and then they pay a usage charge based on how much water they use during winter months. And we define winter months as the months of November through April. And the reason we do that is because for most people, the winter months, they're not using any outside water. And so we can determine, based on how much water they're using, how much of is going down the sewer, which is basically everything inside the house. And so, this is a tip for everybody in this room that's on the Murray sewer system. If you want to see your sewer bill go down, don't water outside of your home during the months of November through April, because then you'll essentially only be counting the amount of water that is going down the sewer, and you'll have typically a lower sewer bill. But that's how Murray City determines what the sewer rate is going to be, is how much water you use during those winter months. And then we charge that usage charge, which currently is $2.26 per 100 cubic feet. And I know that probably doesn't mean much to anybody, but that's 100 cubic feet is equal to about 750 gallons. So again, may not make a lot of sense until you see what that actually is, how much that is. But that's the charge. So right now, the average monthly sewer bill for single family homes, now obviously it's going to be higher for places that use like car washes or the hospital or something like that. Commercial uses are typically much higher, but the average sewer bill for a single family home is $30 a month approximately. So you can see that what we are proposing with this rate structure, in order to cover the increased costs for Central Valley and other operating costs, that we're proposing that the rates would increase a little bit each year over the next 5 years. And then in 5 years, we'll revisit those and see where we are and how our fund's doing and how our reserves are looking. And this is typically how we've done this. Murray has done this 5-year rate program for many, many years in the past. So that's what we're asking you to adopt as part of Chapter 13 tonight, is this rate increase, which will essentially take an average single-family monthly sewer bill from $30 a month to approximately, over 5 years, a little over $38 a month is what it will be in 2021. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have. I know I think for most of you, I think Pam, you're the only one that probably wasn't here when we made the presentations in July and August last year, but that's the recap of what we discussed with you at that time.
Okay, thanks, Doug. All right, we'll open this for public comment. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to this? Okay. Seeing none, I will close the public comment period and turn it to the council for consideration. So I will, if there are no questions of Doug, I would entertain a motion.
No, well, I got no questions. Just a quick comment. I've lived with this thing for 6 years now. I sit on the Central Valley Water Board, and it wasn't a surprise. We've been collecting data on the impact of the plant on the Jordan River. But what it boiled down to was, no matter what data we showed, we were going to have to spend the money anyway. And when the EPA and Division of Water Quality changed the rules on phosphorus and nitrogen discharge from the plant into the river, it essentially made the plant obsolete. And so to meet that rule, we have to completely rebuild the plant, and we have 5 years to do it. Plant's permit is currently up for review, so it's one of those get it done or shut down. And we all know what happens if you close the sewer plant. So I would, if there are no other comments, I would make a motion that we adopt the ordinance amending chapters 13.08 on through to 13.52 of the city code related to public services, including wastewater fees in the Murray City service area.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I second the motion.
Is there discussion on the motion?
So it's a response to an EPA guideline, correct, Jim?
In the end, yes.
Yes, okay.
Any further discussion?
No.
Okay.
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Brent. Okay, so the motion passes unanimously. Now we'll go to unfinished business. There is none. New business. There is. First is 10.1, which is to consider a resolution of the Murray City Municipal Council authorizing the issuance and sale of not more than $5,800,000 aggregate principal amount of sales tax revenue bonds. Denise Steck is presenting.
Thank you. We discussed this item last week in the Committee of the Whole quite extensively, and we're asking for you to approve the resolution, giving us the parameters to issue the bond. You would be authorizing myself, the mayor, the city attorney, or some other mayor pro tem delegate that would price and time the issuance of these bonds. It would be a maximum of $5.8 million to build the fire station. And it would not be issued if we continue to have issues with the property at the fire station. It sets the parameters of the payoff of the bond within less than 14 years, which is the time period that we'll be collecting the local option sales tax, which would be paying the debt service. In essence, the purpose of this bond would be to smooth out the cash flows for the city as we attempt to finish the downtown redevelopment and city hall projects. So with your permission, we would sell the bonds at no more than a 2% discount, and we would issue the bonds for no more than 4.5% interest rate. If there's any questions from the council regarding this parameters resolution?
Questions? Okay, if
Frank.
none,
Oh, I just
Oh,
wanted to say,
Frank, sorry.
In addition, we will be having a public hearing. I forgot about that. We will be holding a public hearing to receive public comment on the issuance of this bond on December 12th at our regular council meeting at 6:30 here in council chambers. Sorry. And it will be noticed publicly.
I just have a comment, Denise. I really appreciate you being so thorough with this and meeting with each of the council members and helping us to really understand what this is about. So,
Thank you.
with that, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we adopt the resolution of the Murray City Municipal Council authorizing the issuance and sale of not more than $5,800,000 aggregate principal amount of sales tax revenue bonds.
I'll second that.
All right, there has been a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion? All right, Brent?
Aye.
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 Aye. All right, motion passes. Number 2 is consider a resolution approving an interlocal cooperation agreement between the city, the Utah Community Action Head Start Program, and Murray City School District to lease city property. Doug Hill presenting.
You may be aware that the city owns a building on 6100 South and Main Street, right adjacent to Grant Park. It used to be the old fire station and the old Murray Library. Apparently, the city owned the building and the property and must have leased it to the library. That was before my day, but we owned it nonetheless. And when the new fire station was built over on 5900 South, the fire department vacated that property, and the Murray School District asked the city if they could use that building for their early childhood education program and the Head Start program. And so the city, so this was 20 years ago, so the city had a 10-year lease for them to use that building. They were responsible for all the maintenance and care of the building, and they allowed the city, or the city retained the ability to use that building during the months of May through September, or May through August, for whatever use they needed, which primarily it's been used for rehearsal space for the city's art programs. So the groups that want to put on the productions at the amphitheater during the summertime have gone in there after school hours
and have rehearsed in the bays of the old fire station. And as I mentioned, we renewed that, so that was 20 years ago. We renewed it once for an additional 10 years, and now we're up for another renewal. And what we're proposing this year, and I have met with the representatives from the Murray School District, as well as the early childhood education and with Head Start, and they have all agreed to the terms where we are proposing tonight that we renew it again for an additional 5 years rather than 10 years, and so through 2022, and then that the city be allowed to use it for one additional month. So I think it was in March. Now the city is able to start using the building because of the increased demand or limited space, indoor space for the arts programs. And that's just after school hours. So the city will now be able to get in a month earlier than they previously did. So again, the school district, early childhood education, as well as Head Start have agreed to these terms, have actually signed the agreement. So the city is the remaining entity that, if it's approved tonight, will sign the agreement, and then they'll have use of that facility for another 5 years. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Doug. Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I'd make a motion that we approve a resolution approving an interlocal cooperation agreement between the city, the Utah Community Action Head Start Program, and Murray City School District to lease city property.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
Is there discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none. Brent, would you?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, the motion passes. Now, the last one is 10.3, to consider a resolution approving an interlocal cooperation agreement between the city and Salt Lake County for the purpose of cost sharing for the 2017 through 2022 UPDES media campaign. Doug, it's you again.
All right, UPDES is another term for stormwater discharge, and making sure that we don't pollute the rivers and streams in our community. 20 years ago, Congress passed the Clean Water Act. Actually, it's been 25 years now. So 25 years ago, Congress passed the Clean Water Act, which now requires communities to have a program to treat stormwater, to inspect it, to make sure that we do everything within our ability to make sure that we're not polluting, as I mentioned, the streams and rivers throughout the United States. Murray City, many years ago, one of the requirements of the Clean Water Act was that you had to do a public education program, public involvement program, and educate the public about not dumping things down the storm drains. And that was where if you've seen it on TV, "We all live downstream" slogan and commercials, that was where that was born, was out of this program. And so Murray City joined with all the other cities in Salt Lake County. It didn't make sense for Murray City to try to do our own media campaign and every other city in the county do their own separate effort. It made sense for all of us to join forces and meet this public involvement or public education requirement. And so we're renewing the agreement. They come in blocks of 5 years. We've been doing this for, like I say, probably about 15, 20 years. But this new agreement is actually, the cost is increasing to the city. We've been paying in the past $5,000 a year to the coalition that handles all of the public media. Because of various annexations and incorporations of cities over the last 5 years, they've reallocated the financial requirements based upon our population size. And so Murray now, through this agreement, our costs will increase by about $1,900, so it'll go to about $6,900 a year starting next year. We feel good about that. That's a good, fair allocation based on where we are. The money to pay for this comes out of the stormwater fund, so the fees that people pay monthly and actually, wonder where their fees are going. This is one of the things that it helps fund, is this media campaign to educate the public about protecting our water and making sure that they don't dump things down the storm drain, or that they'll make an effort to clean the gutters in front of their houses, clean off the storm drains before it rains or something like that. So we're just asking you tonight to consider approving this agreement for another 5 years with the coalition.
Okay. Thanks, Doug. All right, I would.
I have a question. That was a question.
Sure.
Doug, is that so? This media, just for my curiosity and maybe everyone watching, is it on TV or how do they? How does this go about?
I'm trying to think. You may have seen there's a guy that.
Yes.
That pulls a storm drain and he ends up falling in, and then he ends up going down and coming out into Liberty Park.
That's part of the coalition.
That's one of the commercials that they put on TV.
Okay.
That we all live downstream.
Yep. Okay. Gotcha.
Okay. I'll consider a motion.
I move to adapt the resolution approving an interlocal cooperation agreement between the city, the Utah Community Action, wrong one. Sorry.
10.3.
Yep, 10.3. I move to approve the resolution approving an interlocal cooperation agreement between the city and the Salt Lake County for the purpose of cost sharing for the 2017 and 2022 UPDES media campaign.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion? Any further?
Thank you. No.
Okay. All right, we'll go to the vote. Brent?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Now we go to the mayor and your report.
Thank you. But before we do, Madam Chair, I don't know if you noticed, we had at least one scout come in after the special recognition time. And
Oh, my goodness. Good
bring that
catch,
to your
Mayor.
attention.
I appreciate that. I said, don't notice me, don't notice me. Oh, we're glad you came to join us. So what we would like to know is your name, the badge you're working on, and your troop number.
I'm Peter Little. I'm from Scout Troop 1332, and I'm working on citizenship in the community.
Welcome, Peter. We're glad you joined us.
Awesome.
Great. Good catch. Thank
Hey,
you.
Thank you. Just a couple of things tonight. I can't help but mention, I really appreciate the comments that we get from the public at the council meetings and the insight we get. And I wanted to just make a comment that it's been suggested at least twice tonight that we get busy. And I just want you to know that we are busy, and we've been in contact with the owners of the property over on Vine Street, and we're working through some of the due diligence that we need to work through, and we'll have something to you for your consideration soon. So just wanted to make you aware of that and to make the public aware of that. A couple other things. If you've been to the Park Center, if you're going to be at the Park Center soon and you're doing any competitive swimming, the swimming pool has new lane dividers and flags. They look really nice, so I think you can appreciate that. Also, I wanted to mention that on the 15th of this month, I attended the public announcement for the funding event for the Boys and Girls Club expansions. It includes the Murray Club and the West Capitol Club downtown. And the thing that impresses me about what's going on with this fundraising event is that their goal is $7 million to expand, like I said, this club here and the one downtown, one of the ones downtown. And of that $7 million, they have already raised 5.4 million, $5.6 million of that before they even went public, and that's through very generous donations from the Larry H. and Gail Miller Foundations, $1 million, and the Dolores Eccles Foundation, $1.5 million, and many other generous donors. So they've now gone public with this and are attempting to raise the other $1.4 million, which will be a great addition onto this club. They had the plans available for us to see, and Bob Dunn has those if you're interested in seeing those, if you haven't already. But the Murray Club works with about 120 children every day, and they have a waiting list of about 60. And this would really help alleviate the need there. And I really believe that the Boys and Girls Club is an asset that we need to continue to support. So I just thought I'd mention that to you tonight. Also on Tuesday, December 19th, the basketball teams from our two high schools, Cottonwood High School and Murray High School, will be playing against each other at Cottonwood High School. And because both of these schools are in Murray, and both of these schools loved Mayor Ted Iyer, they have decided that they are going to, at the halftime, have a tribute to Mayor Iyer and make a presentation to his family. And so that's at halftime of the basketball game. The game starts at 7 p.m. I know that there's conflicts that night with the UAMPS, but wanted to make you aware of that and let you know that you're all invited to that. It'll be a nice event.
Mayor, tell us the date again.
December 19th. And finally, with this Thursday being Thanksgiving, as was mentioned earlier, I wanted to mention that the city offices will be closed Thursday and Friday. And we want to wish all of you a very happy Thanksgiving, and hope you enjoy the holiday with your friends, family, and loved ones. That's my report. Do you have any questions?
No, just we would also, on behalf of the council, like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. And with that, we are adjourned.